when your crush hits you with a buddy. Dude, I remember when I was in high school. You guys remember all the Simon stories, right? I remember when I was in high school, I had this girl that, like, she was so attractive that it physically pained me to look at her. And I remember she came up to me one time. She had the I've got a secret sachet going on while she walked up. She's like, hi, Ryan. And I was just like, ha, ha, ha. And she was like, okay, I'm gonna take that as a yes. I was like, She's like, hey, I've got a question for you. And I was like, I was better than that. I was like, yeah, sure. What's up? What can I possibly do for you? Anything, name it. And she was just like, well, I'm kind of embarrassed to ask. And I was like, no, please ask away. Little monster, that's it. I was like, yeah, please ask away. Like whatever I can possibly do to help you out. And she was just like, well, I was wondering. And I was like, She's like, if you, and I was like, yeah. And she's like, happen to want to, and I was like, yeah, go on. She's like, tell me Simon's phone number. That was what she came up with. Do you have Simon's phone number? And I was like, oh, that is not what I was hoping for. I do. Here you go. I'm going to put pain into your soul. That's what she should have let out with. Like, hey, how's your soul feel today? I'm like, it's pretty good. She's like, I'm gonna fix that. What's Simon's phone number? That happened to me. That happened to us on the interstate one time, man. Simon and I were driving home from a place where we go swimming. Like we used to go swimming in this part of the Snake River. So yeah, dude, me and Simon were driving home from this swimming hole location, and while we were driving, we saw this beautiful girl, and you know, we were never ones to be discouraged in any situation. We were like, you know what? So we saw this beautiful girl, and I started writing messages to her. Like we drove up next to her, and she smiled. He and I both got flirty, like hi, and like waving and stuff. And so like, I started writing messages in Sharpie on a piece of like a notepad that we had in there. And she digs around in her glove box and finds a pen and like an envelope, and writes down number ? With a smiley face. And I kind of smiled, and I pointed at myself, and she went and pointed over at the driver's seat, and I ended up having to give her Simon's phone number. And I was just like, life is pain. Life is pain, and we should probably all give up. But yeah, Nebuchadnezzar, man. Yeah, he and I were bartenders at Red Robin together. We used to go shoot pool in our downtime. So there were two places to shoot pool. There was the place to shoot pool without boobies, which was just a pool hall where the pool was a little more expensive and the booze was a little more expensive. But then once we had kind of once that place got crowded, or we had just decided that we didn't want to be there anymore, we always went to this really nasty strip club called the Torch. We go to the Torch because, to my knowledge, as far as I can remember, I never got a dance at the Torch. I never once went and sat at the rail, and I certainly never got a private dance there, but I got drunk there a lot because, say it with me, chat, the alcohol was cheap and the pool was 50 cents a round, whereas some places had jacked their pool up to like $1 or $1.50 a round. The pool was cheap there, man, because they assumed you would spend money on the girls, but the pool was cheap and the alcohol was cheap, so why not go there? It's like we got the added benefit of also seeing a lot of boobies. And the funny thing was a lot of boobies with no like pretense about them. There was no like, hey, what do you do? You go to school? Like there was just like, hey, you want to give me your money? Not really. I would like another pitcher of PBR and a bunch of quarters and pool chalk if you have it. 50 cents a game is a good bargain. Yeah, man. It's like $3 for a pitcher of like shitty domestic beer and 50 cents per game of pool. Plus there'd be naked women everywhere. Boobies without pretense. And they knew after a little while there was no way that Neb and I were going to spend money. You know what I mean? Like they knew that there was no way that Neb and I were going to spend money on the rails or in the private dances, so they didn't bother us. I mean, they came up to hang out with us because we were polite and respectful, and we tipped on drink service. But they stopped bothering us about coming down to the rail after a very short period of time. But they never had pool chalk. No one ever has pool chalk. I did at one point, not like super intentionally, but a little intentionally. There was a girl that was really aggressive about Jesus. There was a girl that was really aggressive about like she was gonna change our mind. She was gonna be the one to finally get me and Neb down on the floor. That'll do, pig. She was really aggressive about she was gonna be the one to change our mind and get me and Neb to go down and get down at the rail and watch her dance and all that kind of stuff. And so she used to come over like Neb and I were super competitive about pool. Neither one of us were like blow your doors off good, but we played enough that we got decent. And so it was a real like point of pride. I remember one night I beat Neb 3 games in a row, and the last game after the break I never missed a shot. I sank the entire side of my rack in one go without missing a shot. And that was the night that Neb looked at me and was like, I'm done playing pool, and he just walked off and drank the rest of the night. So we were like really competitive about like winning and losing mattered to us. Like it was all fun and games and we drank beer and had a good time, but like we kept score. It's a lot like, you know, when you're playing games with like Brizzy or, you know, Deadpine or Crooked or anyone else in this chat, you're not really keeping score. There's no prize at the end, but pride is a prize. And so I remember one day, dude, I was trying to line up a really tough shot, and this girl showed up, and she's a stripper, you know, like she's just doing her job. I don't fault her for it, but she showed up while I was lining up this really tough shot, and she went over and she's like, what, basically was like, why do you guys never come down to the rail? And we're like, well, we're having a good time up here. Like this is what we do for a good time. So, you know, we like having you guys around. We like talking to you guys. We like tipping on drinks. I'm not doing chaos again, dog. That's gonna be a yikes from me, dog. I was like, no offense or anything. We'll tip extra heavy on drink service, but we're just not looking to have that kind of night. She's like, oh, you just like staying up here and playing with your sticks. Like it became real, very double entendre-y and all that kind of stuff. And we're like, yeah, basically. So I went to line up my shot, and she was just like, are you aiming to put it in the hole? And she went and like spread eagle, like grabbed her ankles and like bent over so that her ass was right next to the corner pocket. And I was just like, oh, come on, man. And so she's like wiggling and dancing her G-string in front of the corner pocket. And I got frustrated, so I jumped the cue ball into her back. She didn't bother us again. And like, I wasn't trying to kill her, right? Like I didn't pick up the cue ball and throw it at the back of her skull. But I did jump the cue ball off the table and into her back because like, we'd made our point. You know what I mean? Like I had said what we've been very respectful about it. I had said what I meant to say. I was very like polite about like, hey, we'll tip extra heavy on drinks. I know you guys make a living on the rails and private dances, but it's just not what we're interested in. If at any point you guys need to clear out the space because somebody else who spends a lot of money here comes in, let us know. That's fine. But yeah, man, you know, like, just fucking with me during a very important shot, man. Like, as far as I can remember, Neb had a game that day, and I had a game that day. So this was probably going to decide the victor of the day, you know? Kaz, I'm pretty sure we'd be good friends in real life as well. So yeah, I jumped the cue ball into the small of her back. It wasn't enough to hurt her. It startled her. I'm sure she's not used to being, you know, like, touched by anything when she's at work, which is rightfully so, but I played up the oops factor, and she did not bring us pictures of beer after that. So get your chocolate starfish out of my pool. I mean, that's how I felt, right? It's one of the few times in my life I didn't feel sexually aroused by a naked woman. I was just irritated. It's like I might as well have been a gay man at that point because I was so put out by her like waving her useless tail in front of me. I was just like, do you mind? I have important things that I'm trying to tend to here, and your lady taint is getting in my way.